This is a CNBC original.
Tonight, a new look at a hit business like no other, with a punch as powerful as its profits.
And here we go!
Ultimate Fighting Championship, a league that's battled its way to the top of mixed martial arts and won the backing of corporate America.
That's what the fans like to see.
CNBC's Scott Wapner goes one-on-one with Dana White, the frontman who took a dying franchise.
We bought this thing when it was as low as it could possibly get.
Nearly dead.
Dead? No, was dead.
And turned it into a global sensation.
When you first started out in your wildest dreams, did you ever think that you'd be fighting in Germany?
I'm at the point now where I'm just like, anything is possible.
It's a violent and growing sport that's attracted controversy and some deep pockets.
I think that it's going to be a very successful enterprise.
Neither you nor Mr. Trump get into anything to come in second place.
The fan base just continues to grow. If you come and challenge me and you want to compete, then we're going to compete.
It's a no-holds-barred look at the biggest brand in brawling.
We haven't done what we set out to do yet. It's going to be the biggest sport in the world.
Now, the CNBC original documentary, Ultimate Fighting, Fistful of Dollars. From Cologne, Germany, here's CNBC correspondent Scott Wapner.
Come step inside the octagon, the ring for the Ultimate Fighting Championship. The UFC is the premier brand in mixed martial arts, and since we first profiled the league back in 2007, it's muscled its way into the mainstream and has even gone global. Now, a new look at a controversial enterprise that in just 8 years has gone from near bankruptcy to making money hand over fist. We begin with the man who's transformed the Fight League from a rogue venture into an entertainment powerhouse, a relentless force of nature named Dana White.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're the man.
Thanks.
Big fan of you.
It's an unlikely spectacle. The head of an American professional sports league literally stopping traffic in a foreign country. But that's exactly what happened when UFC President Dana White took a stroll down the streets of Cologne, Germany.
Yeah.
Okay.
White was in town for the UFC's first visit to mainland Europe. And as we saw when he walked through a busy tourist area, Ultimate Fighting is fast becoming a universal language.
Ich bin Französisch. Okay. Uh-oh, Brazilians.
White was surrounded by fans wanting pictures or autographs, or just to catch a glimpse of the fighting frontman. He obliged them all, even this guy.
Oh, yeah?
You know, some level, that must blow you away.
Yeah, it does, especially when you go into other countries, you know, when you're walking around in Germany and people recognize who you are. It's a little crazy.
It says a lot about the growth of a brand that was once near extinction, a brand White himself has helped raise to new heights with a shrewd business sense and unique, self-assured style.
Hi, babe. I'm not the smartest guy you're ever going to meet, not even close to it, but I know fighting. You know, and I know for a fact there's nobody in mixed martial arts that knows more about the business than I do.
A college dropout from South Boston, White's rise to the top of the UFC was anything but certain and hardly the typical corporate career path. He held jobs as a hotel bellman and aerobic kickboxing instructor and had run a couple of gyms before he convinced childhood friends Las Vegas casino owners Lorenzo and Frank Fertitta to buy the near-bankrupt league in 2001.
We bought this thing when it was as low as it could possibly get.
Nearly dead.
Dead? No, was dead. The biggest organization in the world, the first organization in the world, the UFC, was going out of business, okay? And there was no hope in sight.
But the Fertittas rolled the dice. They bought the UFC for $2 million, invested $44 million more, and put an untested White in charge.
Basically what we want to do is we want to make the Super Bowl of mixed martial arts.
People at the time said, well, Dana has never run a big business or done this or done that. I said, doesn't matter. He's got street smarts, he's got passion, and he's going to make it work.
Is that what this needed more than a typical buttoned-up business guy?
If this business was run by some Harvard MBA, it probably wouldn't have worked, because so many things are non-conventional.
Unconventional is probably one of the more polite things the Ultimate Fighting Championship has been called since it came on the scene in 1993, as a mix of wrestling, boxing, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and other martial arts. The UFC was quickly targeted by politicians for its brutality. It was even banned from television, and financially, it stood on the brink of bankruptcy. That's when White, more fan than financier, convinced the deep-pocketed Fertittas to step in.
And I called him up and I said, guys, the UFC might be for sale. What do you think of that? And a month later, we own the company.
It's safe to say that even with your passion, had you just gone out and tried to look for investors you didn't know, they probably would have looked at you and laughed.
No doubt about it. Yeah, no doubt about it.
They would have looked at your resume and said, what do you know about business?
Get back to the gym, buddy. Yeah, I agree.
But a full 4 years after White took over, the UFC was still suffering financially, hemorrhaging money just to finance the events and pay the fighters, sometimes out of the Fertittas' own pockets. It looked like the league would go up for sale again.
It was difficult losing the kind of money that we did. You know, here we're successful in our casino business, and you're taking good money that you're making and maybe putting it after a bad investment. In fact, at one point I called Dana, I said, look, you got to get me out of this thing. And I went home, thought about it for a while, and Dana had already started making calls. And I called him the next morning when I woke up on my way to work. I said, hold on, I have a second thought on that. I want to hang in there and see if we can make this thing work.
What changed your mind so quickly?
I think part of it was just the passion. I wasn't ready to let go.
To make the league work, the Fertittas and White knew they'd have to get it sanctioned by state athletic commissions and back on television. Not exactly easy considering its controversial past.
We went around to all the networks. We pitched them every type of show you could think of. Everybody was terrified of it.
They were still thinking of it as the old product.
Yeah, they were terrified. This was something that wasn't allowed on pay-per-view, you know, a couple of years before.
Which is a pretty big statement.
Porn is on pay-per-view, okay? You can watch porn on pay-per-view. The UFC wasn't allowed on pay-per-view. That's how bad it was.
So bad, in fact, that the Fertittas and White ended up producing and paying for a television series themselves. In 2005, they debuted The Ultimate Fighter, a reality show pitting up-and-coming mixed martial artists against each other for ultimate supremacy. It caught the attention of Spike, a new cable network targeting young men. Spike president Kevin Kay signed the show.
But you were the first to take a risk on this sport.
Yep.
Why the UFC?
Spike's strategy has always been to look at fringe sports and see if there's a way to make them mainstream, and the UFC seemed like a sport, you know, that was on the rise.
Gentlemen, you have a very unique opportunity. Many fighters from all over the world dream of someday fighting in the UFC. 2 of you actually will.
The Trojan Horse was the Ultimate Fighter reality show. Reality was hot. We said this would be the way to get it on TV. You're watching mixed martial arts without realizing you're watching mixed martial arts.
The first season featured UFC superstar Randy Couture.
Now, I think the first season of The Ultimate Fighter gave people a behind-the-scenes look at what goes into making a guy that fights in a cage for a living, and they saw that we weren't a bunch of thugs, we weren't a bunch of knuckleheads that just like to beat people up. We're real guys from real walks of life, that this is our outlet.
The Ultimate Fighter was a hit, and Spike signed on for more. The two have since extended their partnership through 2011. But if the Spike series helped put the UFC on the map, pay-per-view, where the real money is, has taken the league to the next level.
Fight it! 3, and 2, 1. Go, track, go!
Ladies and gentlemen, we